Our hero wakes up to a super weird sight he can't even explain. But then a girl calls out his name. And as soon as Ed snaps his eyes open, the whole vision just vanishes. She keeps asking him over and over if he's actually doing okay. His legs feel like total jelly, but he quickly apologizes to Mina, tells her he's totally fine, and says they should get to work before everyone else gets there. Mina starts sprinting right alongside him, flashing a big smile because she's totally down. We see a girl hanging up laundry singing a catchy tune about how she washes and dries every single piece. She says it's a beautiful day just because they've got work to do, while Mina keeps shouting for Ed, but he's totally spacing out. He's just standing there thinking about, this was actually his life from before he started all over again. Mina yells right in his ear to get his attention, and that's the only way he finally hears her. She asks what's wrong and jokes about hitting him to wake him up. She's laughing and screaming through the pain, but the hero tells her he finally gets it and promises he'll never do it again. The heroes finally get their payday, and as Mina counts out 3 coins, the lady says they actually gave extra, so the girl gives her a huge thank you. The heroes dip out the moment the women start gossiping about them. One lady is totally over having to let those kids inside again. The other one agrees but points out that Mina is actually... Ed listens in as the woman says the black-haired guy and the girl are just slum kids. Then Mina quickly drags him away, and he goes along while lying to himself that he doesn't. You don't have to worry about starving today, so they hand the guy 3 coins for their usual meal and tell him to throw in some beans too. Mina's stoked they actually scored some food today and she's not sharing a single bite, while Ed's just thinking about how they're doing whatever it takes to survive. Ever since the city fell 8 years ago, survivors have been living in a place called Le Herde right outside Tria's walls, just dreaming of the day they can finally go back home. So this is what they're really after. And in his 6 years of life, Ed has never seen a single thing outside these walls. The heroes walk into Melon's hospital as Mina shouts that they're finally home. And inside, a woman is apologizing because she's broke, but the other lady tells her it's totally fine. She says hi to Mina and Ed, and it turns out she's actually Mina's mom. So Mina tackles her with a hug and brags about finishing the laundry while her mom, Mina brags about earning 3 copper coins and buying some beans. And since mom says they're super healthy, she's tossing them in the pot for dinner. She turns to Ed and hypes him up too, promising that dinner will be ready soon. And Ed totally agrees, mentioning that this is his home where he lives with Mina and his parents. The squad at the table gives a huge shout out to Monsieur La Faliere for his blessing. Mom says Dad's gonna be late, so they start eating without him while Mina tells everyone to dig in. Ed takes a bite and his face instantly twists in horror. So his mom asks what's going on and if the beans are actually that gross. But Ed just shakes his head and says now he's finally getting a taste of what this other world is all about. The heroes drift off to sleep, and Ed finally realizes that living in this place is a total nightmare. Mina snuggles up and mumbles his name while she's dreaming, and he just pulls her in close. She whispers that Ed feels super warm, and the boy realizes he's got to get out of there fast. Mina's super bummed, because they've got 0 work today, and Ed's right there with her, just hoping their mom can make some bank since they're both way too nice. The girls start chomping on thin air. She keeps gnashing her teeth even when the hero asks what she's doing. Mina points at a cloud and explains she's actually eating it. Ed sadly calls her name, but then her stomach lets out a massive growl, and she starts cracking up from the pure awkwardness. Our hero decides he's finally had enough of this life. He grabs her hand and starts dragging her along. She's totally lost and has no idea where he's even taking her. They arrive at the field, but Mina is totally confused about what's going on. Then the guy tells her to start picking wildflowers, so she asks him again what he's actually doing. He tells her he's just looking for some grass to snack on. This totally blows the girl's mind. Ed keeps going, explaining that flowers are actually edible too. He even mentions his neighbor. He's right in the middle of explaining which flowers are safe to eat when he's cut off by a beetle suddenly attacking Mina. Ed's stomach is growling, but his brain is buzzing because he just remembered his whole past life. It was a total disaster, but at least he picked up some super useful skills. Our hero starts gasping for air, and Mina's like, wait, what just happened? Our hero wonders if he's got appraisal magic, and suddenly, stat windows for the plants pop up right in front of him to show him exactly what he's looking at. He shows it to Mina, but she's totally clueless, so Ed realizes she can't even see it, as he looks at his status window and thinks this power should be totally normal for him. All they gotta do is test out the Raven Eye. So this guy waves some grass around and tells them they're gonna be harvesting it from now on. And while Mina isn't, the girl's super nervous and asks if they're actually gonna eat that, fearing a total stomach disaster. But Ed just sparks a fire and tells her he'll take the first bite to prove He remembers these shoots are totally edible, so he crushes some rock salt over them and realizes he definitely won't be cooking anything fancy out here. These beans are actually super toxic if they aren't fried perfectly. And even though Mina is suspicious at first, she can't help but grin once she catches a whiff of that amazing smell. Our hero says it's finally ready, and a system window pops up over the dish to confirm that everything is cooked perfectly. The kid gives it a try, and Mina's totally hyped to hear how it is. So Ed admits it's actually not half bad, but it definitely needs some seasoning since it tastes exactly like peas. She thinks for a second and then screams that she wants to eat too, which totally freaks the guy out. Mina gives it a taste and immediately complains about how bitter it is. It's got a bitter kick, but she thinks it's fire and starts inhaling it. So Ed tells her to slow down since there's barely any left. Mina's already asking for seconds, but our hero reminds her that safety comes first and tells her not to pig out so she doesn't get sick. Right at that moment, their mom walks back in and asks the kids to forgive her because dinner is finally ready. She's so stunned she stops mid-sentence, so the hero just tells her Mina ate and passed out, even though he's still totally clueless about his past life and where this power is their ticket to a better life, so Ed swears he'll make Mina happy. And now that he's finally feeling confident, even his mom thinks it's awesome. Ed remembers his mom saying she was sorry for leaving him and that she couldn't stay by his side anymore. Our hero was totally lost in that moment, but the woman kept going, telling him to ignore the haters who dissed his dark hair, though she got cut off before she could finish her sentence. His mom handed him a special item and told him to sell it if he ever ran into trouble. Then Mina's dad asked to Maria if she was actually sure about leaving, and she had to go look after her son, so she just took off. Our hero is dreaming about his mom when he suddenly gets blasted awake by Mina kicking him straight in the face. The guy yells that work is over and kicks everyone out, telling them to head back to the slums since sticking around won't get them anywhere. He shoves the hero and yells that black-haired people don't belong, while Ed rubs his head and thinks that really sucks. Suddenly, this random dude pops up and starts flexing about how they scored the gig, asking if our hero is salty before he recognizes Harris. One line out. Preserve the sequence exactly. Do not use any line breaks or new lines in your response. Okay, I will provide the response as a single continuous line. Mina's totally hyped that they're finally starting their collection. She finds a gross crow's eye. The boy cheers her on and tells her it's just a bean. He's hyped because he thinks they're about to score a... Ed decides to give it a shot and yells, "Evaluation!" And suddenly, a ton of windows pop up right in front of him. He's stunned that he can scan everything in sight, but then his head starts pounding like crazy. He realizes he's actually using magic, but the catch is it drains his strength every time he uses it. And just as Mina walks over to check on him, a status window pops up over her head, revealing her name and the fact that she's an elf. Ed tells her everything's totally fine and not to stress about the food or magic. And while she agrees, he explains that this place is crawling with poisonous plants hidden among the good ones. But hey, things aren't actually that bad since his evaluation screen shows him exactly what's safe to eat. Ed shows off some dandelions and says they're actually food, making Mina freak out over how he knows literally everything, while he just laughs and agrees. She asks if it's magic, but he tells her it's just a simple evaluation spell, and it's all thanks to her, leaving Mina totally lost in thought. She screams that Ed is a total legend with magic powers, but Ed's just wondering if she actually gets him. He tells her to keep it on the down low since he doesn't even... Our hero wants to keep hunting for those tasty flowers, and she's totally down for it. While Mina's busy rolling around in the grass, Ed starts gathering it up, realizing they've found a ton of useful materials. Down in the slums, the only way to make food taste better is with basic rock salt, so our hero knows he has to keep searching until a girl suddenly calls him over to show him something. She's totally hooked, and he knows exactly what's going down. They get back home and brag that they finally beat their hunger, totally ready to dive into some amazing food. Ed realizes there isn't even a knife in the whole house, so he just grabs one of his mom's things instead. He starts cutting the grass, and Mina is totally impressed, calling him super cool. Our hero explains they need to boil the garlic to get the bitter stuff out for the sauce, and when he asks Mina for help, she's totally down. Then Ed tells her to grab more beans and start sorting through the rest of the herbs. Dad gets home and is totally blown away, wondering if it's some secret holiday, but as Mina greets him, Mom reveals she's just as shocked because the kids handled everything themselves. They decide to dig in before the food gets cold, thanking La Folie for the blessing and wishing everyone a great meal. Mina is totally hyped because this food tastes absolutely amazing. She asks what the flavor is. Dad thinks it's just wildflowers. Mom points out they don't even have a smell, and it says garlic sauce is the way to go. Next up is the second course. Crosy beans. And she can tell right away these are way different from normal beans. Ed explains that adding peas and dandelion roots made the meal super crispy and delicious, and his mom is totally shocked that he can cook like a pro using nothing but salt and flowers. He hands her a cup and tells her to give it a taste, because this right here is the reason for everything. Everyone gives it a shot, and they all start grinning like crazy. Next up is Elle's mushroom soup, and the parents are totally loving the flavor. Ed explains that he boiled the mushrooms in bean broth, while Miana shouts that she's the one who actually found them. Dad's blown away that wildflowers can taste this good, and Mom is totally on board, which is a huge change from their old meals. While the girl is so hyped she says it. She catches her mom's expression, and the woman starts begging for forgiveness because she just can't do it. Ed jumps in and takes the blame, telling Mina to relax because everything is totally fine. Now, they get to eat amazing food every single day. And when he asks Guido and Melon if they're down, they totally agree while Mina backs them up too. She screams that Ed is their savior and agrees with every single thing he says, while the hero just watches and lets out a chuckle. The girl tells everyone to dig in and starts inhaling her food because it's so good, while Guido is just hyped to have a huge breakfast, and when Milne thanks Ed, he just tells her it. The dad notices the kid looks just like Tamarius and mentions the mom raised Edwell, but right as he's about to say something about his father, Mina interrupts to say she's all done. She's completely stuffed and tells her dad he needs to step it up since he barely brought home anything before. But Guido just laughs and says that's going to be a challenge as the whole. Just as the dad is about to leave, he tells Ed and Mina that gathering is totally fine, but warns them to stay out of the deep forest because it's way too dangerous, while Mina just tells him he better work hard today. Our hero tries to remind Guido what they were talking about, but the guy just shuts him down and acts like he has no idea. So Ed thinks about his dad, but plays it off like it was nothing. Mina is just humming and picking grass while our guy realizes he hasn't even asked about his parents yet. But right as he's about to say something, she totally cuts him off. She shows off all the wildflowers she gathered so they can have beans for dinner again, hoping a big meal will finally cheer Ed up. The hero tries to hide how messed up he is and asks if he really looks that bad, which totally tricks Mina into thinking she was wrong, so Ed gives her a quick thanks. He's not even worried about his missing parents because Mina and the crew are his real family now, but when he points out that half those flowers are actually inedible, Mina is totally shocked. Right now, Melon is busy helping the sick when a lady shows up at the front desk complaining about a cough that just won't quit. So Mina's mom calls her over and uses her healing magic to fix her up. She checks to see if the patient is doing okay, and the lady says she's feeling way better, but then Mina and Ed burst in as the girl shouts that they're finally home, so Mina realizes this woman has been stopping by a ton lately. The lady nods and says her throat just isn't getting any better. So our hero uses his evaluation magic to see what's. He spots that the lady has a super bad throat infection. And while Melon says he can dull the pain with his powers, the slums are way too dirty to actually treat a disease, making it. Ed realizes that medicine from another world could actually save him, and he screams out that he finally gets it. He whips up a special herbal tea blend and shows it off to Mel. She asks if it's tea. Millie thinks it smells super weird, and the hero tells them it's just herbal tea. He grabs some herbs that kill off germs and mixes them together. The girl is totally confused because she's never heard the word antibacterial before. So he just tells her it's, since these herbs were dried in the shade, they stay fresh for ages, and Ed's sure they'll help her feel better over time. So Mel agrees and gives the tea a shot. She says it tastes amazing and super fresh, so the hero tells her they can make a whole bunch of it. But when Mina begs for a taste, she makes a gross face at the weird flavor, giving the hero the idea to whip up a version just for kids. After gulping down the medicine, the patient's throat feels way better, and when she thanks Melon, she just acts like it was no big deal. She gives Ed all the credit, making him super flustered as he mumbles that he was just trying to help out. He promises her literally anything she wants, but she turns him down saying she just can't do it, and Ed is totally confused about why she's rejecting him. She recognizes that flavor instantly, explaining that those herbs were worth a fortune back in her village, and Ed and Mina are totally blown away. Ed explains it wasn't a plant, so Mina asks where they're headed, and when he says Dordan's, she figures he's just going there to pick up some beans. He shuts that idea down, so they're going to try something totally different today. The kid thinks he's the only one out there grabbing this wild plant. He never would have guessed that. Ed knocks on the door and calls for Mr. Dordan, who greets the kids and says it's been way too long since they last saw each other. He notices they're doing. The hero shuts him down and says he just wants answers, so when the guy asks, why me? Ed tells him straight up that this is the only shop that actually takes care of the slum kids. He flashes the bag and asks Mr. Dordan for a price, So the guy asks if it's tea he made himself, and once our hero says yes, the merchant finally realizes what's up. He tells them to head inside and chill for a bit. The kid is totally shocked they're actually being invited in. Jordan explains he's got to talk it over with his wife first. Now the heroes are even more blown away. Ed is totally losing it because the guy wants to talk, while Mina is shocked it's their first time inside, asks what's up, and then just passes out right before D. The guy tells him it's better to just leave the tea in the shop, and even though he's nervous, our hero nods along. Mina lays out the grass and tells Ed to serve the next one, but the guy starts overthinking the whole situation. If he hadn't found that herb and given it a shot, would the tea even be worth all that effort? Suddenly, some guy walks up to Ed and tells him he actually works there. Mina's dad shows up with Mr. Doradon, and the kids are totally shocked to see a big shot like him in the slums, just to see how they're making their... Doradon spots the tea leaves growing right there, and once Ed confirms it, he's totally shocked and asks if they're seriously planning to sell them. He grins and offers to be their exclusive seller, wanting to buy their stock non-stop, which leaves the boy totally stunned and wondering if these tea leaves are actually worth a fortune. Dryden says he slapped a label on it and sold it to rich folks for a huge profit because it tastes so good. But while Mina is totally lost, Guido calls it a healthy tea, and Ed says that's just how business goes. Mr. Doradon says it all comes down to quality, and after those free samples blew up their reputation, there's absolutely nothing standing in their way anymore. The man approaches Ed with a wild offer, and Ed is so hyped he agrees instantly, shaking hands to lock in the deal. Mina grabs their hands and yells that the deal is officially on. She shakes hands with everyone there, and when the boy asks if she even knows what she's doing, she's stoked that everyone's hyped for tea too, but then Doradon suddenly hands over a bag, leaving our hero wondering what's actually inside. He tells them the money depends on how much they sold lately and even adds a fee for future orders, leaving the whole family totally shocked. Mina swipes the coin and screams that Mr. Doradon is a total scammer using fake cash, but the guy has absolutely no idea why she's freaking out. The girl insists that real money is brown, not that color. So Ed tries to calm her down by explaining it's just silver and she's only ever seen copper coins. But then Widow points out there's way more cash in there than his actual salary. Ed and Mina dropped off a week's worth of supplies to Mr. Doradon, who took the haul to check it over. And after he paid them for their hard work, she waves goodbye to the merchant, but right then, someone shouts out to them. Harris catches Ed leaving the store and grills him about what they've been doing, thinking Ed's finally got some cash. But Ed tells him straight up that he's never handing. The boys surround them and yell at Ed to hand over his stuff fast, while one kid holds a sign charging a copper coin to start a fire, showing they're back to their old tricks. Harris clocks the hero right in the face, and while Manu screams out for him, the other guys pin him down as Harris rants that Ed's black hair is a total curse and the reason the slums are so poor. Everyone's hyping him up and telling him to go for it, but they can tell the hero is totally losing his nerve. While Mina tries to break free and yells that her mom said, "Black hair?" Harris grabs Ed by the throat and dares him to prove him wrong, but Ed won't back down. And that smug look makes Harris absolutely lose it. He screams that he hates Ed and takes another swing. Mina begs him to quit it, and then someone suddenly drops out of nowhere and lands right on the guy's head. This kid is screaming at the top of his lungs for everyone to just stop. Our hero is totally blown away when he realizes that literally everyone knows exactly who Rainia is. They demand to know why she's even interfering, but she snaps back that this is totally her business, shouting that they can't just gang up on one person, and if Ed won, Harris whispers that they're in big trouble and tells everyone to get moving fast. Rania asks if Ed is doing okay. Since he totally deserves some respect, the girl tries to help him get back on. Without warning, Mina pounces right on Rania. She thanks the girl for the help and calls her a total lifesaver. The dark-haired girl tells him to stop hyping things up. But Ed uses his evaluation magic and realizes she's actually a slum kid born with insane natural talent. Rania tells them to just forget it, claiming she was only passing through to find a job. The elf asks if she gets paid for the flame, and she says yeah, but it's basically pocket change, so she asks if they want to buy some beans, only for Ed to tell her they're actually the ones trying to sell them. They flash a silver coin, and Rania is totally shocked, asking where they even got that kind of cash while the heroes try to explain. Mina, the Shorani of the field, finally realizes exactly what they're trying to do. She never even thought about picking wildflowers for food since her mom usually just buys groceries, and the hero points out that these refugees are basically just city folk who have no clue how to survive in the wild. She's worried about snakes and wolves, but Ed says he hasn't seen any, even though Guido warned them to stay near the city, and right then Mina calls them over to see what she found. She holds it up to show everyone she actually found the mushroom again. Rania is totally weirded out by its crazy shape, but the elf tells her it's actually super soft and delicious if she takes a bite. Suddenly, Ed jumps in and stops her. Then he shows off another one, the edible kind. And while the elf thinks it's awesome, Ronnie's just staring at them wondering how he can even tell them apart since they look exactly. She finally realizes he's using appraisal magic, and it turns out Ed has some seriously cool powers. So he begs her to keep it a secret, and she totally agrees. Mina finds another mushroom, but Ed tells her it's a no-go, and even the one Rania shows them next is totally poisonous. The kid shows off the third one, saying Mr. Dorridan promised they'd sell for a ton, and the girls are all in because big sales mean a massive feast, so they grab a few. Rania sees how hyped Mina is, and they realize this is basically a giant treasure hunt, with the elf agreeing that she's just out here looking for loot with her squad. This treasure right here is going to make us a ton of money. Ed's the genius sage who knows everything. Rania's the fire sorcerer, and then there's Mina, who's still looking for her own strength while the squad tells her not to worry. They announce they've finally gathered enough for a massive feast tonight. Rania is totally caught off guard by the news. Mina invites everyone to eat together. Ed says they need to go. He's got no clue which path is actually the right one. Elfika is totally freaking out because they're actually lost. And Rania realizes she was way too distracted to remember the way back, but the hero steps in to calm everyone down, saying they can go. He points down the path, guessing that's where they started, but Mina suddenly hears a weird noise, so Ed tells everyone he's got it under control and they just need to move fast. Suddenly, a massive goblin jumps out to block their way. He starts screaming right back, mimicking the kids' cries perfectly. They dodge the goblin's swing. Ed screams for them to get out of there, and the girls are totally on board. The goblin speeds right past him, and the hero realizes just how fast this monster is as it charges straight for the girls. He snatches the guy up and talks some smack, but after they roll around, the monster suddenly grabs Ed right by the neck. Ronnie yells that she's taking him down and blasts him with fire magic, turning the goblin into a screaming fireball. Mina and Ed are totally blown away by that power, but they freak out when the goblin jumps back up and starts chasing them like he just won't quit. The beast lunges at our hero once more. He's barely able to hold him back. Rania is totally tapped out and can't fight anymore. Right then, Mina starts screaming, Ed. The elf screams that there's no way she's losing. And right then, something crazy starts happening to the boy. Ed feels his power suddenly skyrocket and knows he's got this. So he headbutts the goblin, grabs his weapon, and starts fighting back. And that's exactly how he takes that monster down for good. Our hero stares at his hands, wondering where this insane power even came from. Suddenly, a message pops up right next to him, saying he's been blessed. He's pretty sure Mina's totally confused since she didn't do anything wrong, and Ed is so awkward he just tells her they'll talk about it once they get home. First, they've got to find a way out of this creepy forest. Then, they start hearing some really sketchy noises. Out of nowhere, 3 ugly goblins jump out from the bushes. Our heroes. 8 years ago, a massive wave of monsters burst out of the demon kingdom, and everyone was running for their lives to escape the horde. The northern city of Eldania was stuck right in the horde's path, and their bad luck was only just beginning. Back then, Merlia was a total wreck because of all the political drama. The lords were terrified of starting a war, so they were too chicken to send in the army. Trap, or so they thought, but they were dead wrong. He's shocked when 3 goblins show up and he knows he's in big trouble. Our hero tells the girls to make a run for it while he baits the monsters. Mina doesn't want to leave him, but he tells them to just go and not look back. Ed screams for the girls to run, and while they're busy worrying about him, he charges straight into the goblin path. Suddenly, someone leaps from the bushes and starts wrecking the monsters, sending those goblins running for their lives. The hero warns the kids to stay out of the forest and checks if they're hurt. Then his team arrives to thank Ed for the help, but suddenly Mina and one of the heroes start screaming because they actually recognize each other. It turns out this guy is actually Guido, Mina's dad. The guy tells the kids this is exactly why he warned them to stay in the city since they almost died, but they're totally clueless while Mina is freaked out by that scream and Guido he pulls the kids into a big hug, telling them they gave him a massive scare, but he's just so relieved they're finally safe. Mina says sorry, but the guy tells her it's cool, and the archer says they're actually lucky since they were already hunting those same goblins. Rania asks if they're out hunting goblins, but they tell her they're actually tracking monster movements for the Seekers Guild on the Lord's orders. Mina asks if their dad is behind this, and Widow says yeah, asking if they've heard the story about the crazy stampede in Eldania that happened way before they were even born. Ed explains that the guy who got away actually built the slums, but the archer cuts him off, saying it's true because these monsters can totally level a whole city. The hero explains that's exactly why the Lord is keeping an eye on them. Ed starts to really think it over. The guys realize that things are actually looking up. They pick who's. Mina shouts that Ed is helping out, which totally catches the guys off guard. And even when the hero nervously admits all three of them were involved, the adventurers still think it's a... The archer says he's got it and tells the kids to stay put, but Mina has absolutely no clue what's going on. The guy wipes out the monsters and warns the kids that the gross stuff they leak is called miasma, which is super dangerous and takes forever to wash off, so they better stay far away. Widow explains that even after 8 years, the refugees still can't go home because the horde's miasma is literally rotting the city to the ground. The archer hands Ed a mysterious item and warns him not to touch it with his bare hands, and Ed realizes it's a magic stone used to power up all kinds of gear. Our hero asks if they can actually keep the stuff, but the guy tells them since they crushed those goblins, the loot is all theirs. They're going to make some serious bank when they sell it. The guys warn them that the forest slugs will gobble up everything else, so they tell the kids to just head back to the city. Rania calls out to Ed, and he immediately starts begging for forgiveness since he's the one who dragged her into this mess and put her life at risk. But Rania tells him it's totally fine and says she's actually the one who needs to apologize, leaving our hero completely shocked. She says she used to think Ed was a total pushover, but he actually turned out to be a brave hero who isn't afraid to take on monsters. She says sorry and thanks him and Mina for totally having her back. Mina lets out a massive scream as the light explodes everywhere. They finally make it back. Ed groans about how long the day was, and Guido calls out for the kids to pay attention. He says he doesn't want them getting hurt, but there's a massive problem. He knows there's no way he can stop them from hunting in the woods for food. They're only this poor because the adults are too scared to go out there themselves. Plus, as he realized, he just wants these heroes to learn how to actually fight back and stay safe, like how to spot a knife attack and dodge it before it's too late. Guido asks the swordsman to teach the kids these survival skills. He even offers to share a tasty mushroom he found. Mom's filling her in on everything so she can save Ed and Rania when things go south. But the girl is just frozen in shock, wondering how she's going to pull this off when she still has to focus on school. Rania cheers her on as they blast magic too, and Ed tells her to chill because he's totally sure Mina has some serious magic talent. The elf keeps double-checking, and after Ed confirms it again and again, Mina promises to give it her absolute best since she trusts him. The whole group heads over to the Trade Ventures Guild, and when the kids ask if outsiders are actually allowed in, the man tells them it's totally fine. He tells them they're always looking for new recruits and invites them in for this huge chance. So Mina totally agrees, while Rania notices Ed is just hanging back at the door. He thinks back to what happened 30 minutes ago when Mr. Dordan told them he wasn't buying their magic stones. So Ed demanded to know why he was being turned down. The merchant explained that this guy had a massive trade network outside the city, and the boy immediately figured the guild was the one pulling the strings. The swordsman bursts in and asks why the guy didn't just say that from the beginning. Dordan then tells West to go see the kids off. West is totally caught off guard by The swordsman led the whole crew straight into the super loud adventurers guild. Rania asks if they can sell magic stones here, while Mina pinches her nose at a funky smell that the others explain is just straight up alcohol. Rania notices Ed acting weird again and asks if he's nervous. So he admits all these strangers are stressing him out because he remembers people making fun of his black hair and telling him to stay away. He's just wondering what other trash people are going to say about him next. The girl tries to hype him up, saying everything's cool as long as she's there. He finally gives in and agrees, even though he's not totally feeling it. Suddenly, he's shocked to see a bunch of slum kids showing up in a place like this. The heroes are looking absolutely terrified. The man notices how rare this is and demands to know why the hero has. The elf pulls out the magic stone and tells them they're there to sell it. The adventurer is totally shocked and asks if they're kidding, but West flexes and says it's for real since the kids actually took down the goblin, leaving the guys whispering in disbelief because these kids are even younger than their own. Everyone keeps hyping up how awesome these heroes are. When the group asks how they pulled it off, Mina brags that Rania uses magic while Ed handles the sword, leaving the seekers totally shocked that such a tiny girl is actually a powerful mage. Kids might be small, but they pull off some massive moves, and these guys don't even wait for permission before they start reaching for the boy. One guy hoists Ed onto his shoulders, asking what it's like to be a monster-slaying beast so young and calling him a total legend, while everyone else cheers and raises their drinks for. Ed says sorry and brings up the black hair comment, asking if the guy thinks it's weird, but the adventurer just repeats his question. He clears the air by saying he just meant her hair is super rare, but then someone else explains that in Marlia, black hair is actually seen as a sign of a bad person because of some old history. He takes a look around and sees a wild mix of humans, gnomes, giants, and dwarves everywhere. Rugen's crew is a total mix of people from everywhere, and while he doesn't care about looks, the kid wonders if hair color really changes your soul, while the second guy asks. Rania tells Ed to relax and he's totally on board with a big smile. They get led to the magic stone shop and are told to head straight to the second floor counter to get started. The guy tells them to stay safe and keep their cool when they meet up, and the kids nervously agree. Rania talks about how their uncle totally creeped them out, and just as Ed agrees, a sudden scream rings out as someone yells to find out what just happened. She totally lays into him for breaking the rules at work, and after a heated argument, the guy just bolts away in tears, screaming about how sorry he is. The girl spots the heroes and asks what they want, but they just start screaming their heads off in response. They scramble away, begging for mercy, but she shouts for them to stop and asks if they're the ones who were making all that noise on the first floor. That's when she finally realizes that Mina is actually an elf. She says sorry for being a jerk, but whispers that this girl's looks prove she's a total purebred. Then Ed tries to get her attention, but she snaps and asks what Our hero is totally confused about how she's linked to Mina. But then a guy walks up and explains that elves are super obsessed with pure bloodlines. The heroes ask who he is, but he just winks and says he's an appraiser who sells his secret knowledge to the guild. Rania remembers hearing about him in the northern elven lands where they track every family line, and the guy adds that their boss is actually from the north too. This lady is 70% purebred, so being a secretary is a huge win for someone mixed like her, and she asks Mina what she's trying to sell. Ed asks if he's actually descended from the ancient elves, and the appraiser tells him he's 100% sure about it. He's eyeing everyone from the young girl to the black-haired kid. This totally catches our hero off guard. He quickly tries to cover up his hair, but the guy tells him to just. The guy asks Ed his name, then starts grilling him about where he was born and who his parents are, but Ed just says he's been a slum kid forever and his parents were the same way. The appraiser cuts him off to ask where that black hair came from. And when Ed says he's got no clue, the guy asks if he can explain what's going on. That legend about the black-haired kid who brings bad luck isn't just a story. It actually happened in real life. But look, this isn't just about black-haired people causing drama, because a long time ago, a massive war broke out over someone with hair just like that, and everyone's. The admin calls in an appraiser named Mr. Hoppelm to check out the magic stone, and he warns the kid to be careful as he turns away. I mean, you don't even need that black hair curse to get totally mad. Anyone can lose their cool. West asks if they finally sold the stone, and a super happy Mina shows off the 5 silver coins they got for it. Ed's still thinking about what the guy just said as he turns to look at him. Then the elf asks why he's lagging behind, so the kid just begs for forgiveness while this guy asks to send a message to the Lord, so the admin asks what he wants to say. Opum says he found a kid with black hair in the Treya slums, and that's the only detail we need to share. Right in the middle of Troy, a servant tells Count Thomas II Bauer that a message just arrived from Mr. Hopham, and the Count tells him to start talking. A servant rushed in with news that the man finally tracked down a black-haired kid from the slums. The Lord realized the black-haired guy was finally in the city, while the girl peeked through the curtains, wondering if his hair was really as dark as a fairy tale. Check out the map of Treya City, a giant fortress built to stop monsters from the north, packed with a castle, a new town, massive walls, the slums, Lanyarda, and farmland. Mina uses her healing magic on another girl, fixing her up instantly, and Ed realizes she's got some serious talent. This girl claims she was a healer who could fix literally anything. She heads over to Ed and tells him to go get wrecked so she can practice her healing, but Reina points out they barely found any loot today anyway. Ed spotted some tracks and realized someone else was already scavenging the area, maybe because they heard about the crew's mission and wanted to copy them. But Reina thinks they're actually just straight up stealing their food. He just told them straight up that wildflowers don't belong to anyone. The real danger is that they have no clue which plants are safe to eat and might pick something deadly. Yet this woman still tells the kids to just follow Ed and start snacking on mushrooms. Our hero is just hoping this doesn't cause any trouble for Melm, but Reina says they still haven't found enough and need to keep hunting. Mina screamed that it was time to move out, but as the squad hiked through the trees, they ran straight into a massive dead end. They're not getting back up and have to turn back, but right then, Mina spots something. He spotted a tiny little opening in the rock, and the healer was super curious to see where it led. She scrambled right inside. She was super hyped thinking she'd find some epic loot. Her friends tried their best to hold her back. Ed yelled out that there wasn't even anything in there. Rania steps inside and uses her fire powers to light up the dark, earning a quick thanks from Mina. She warned Ed that the path was super long and told him to get moving inside. As he crawled deeper, he kept telling himself that the most important thing was to not run into any monsters. They spotted a light glowing in the distance, and Rania knew right away they'd finally found the exit. Mina was hyped to find something cool, but Ed was terrified they were about to run straight into a pack of monsters. The squad finally burst out of that super tight tunnel. Suddenly, they were standing in some garden, and it totally caught them off guard. They spotted some apples growing on the trees. They looked totally safe to eat. The girls figured they were just some wild species. Ed told Mina she should give one a shot. She took them. The girls were having a total blast. They've never seen anything like this before, and the fruit is super sweet. But then Rania finds another bush and tells them these raspberries are safe to eat too. The kids were having a blast just devouring those berries. Ed really made this happen, so now the hero thinks they found a total treasure, and Rania says the place is like literal heaven. Hidden inside the rocks are these weird trees that make the place a total fruit paradise. And since the only way in is a tiny tunnel only kids can squeeze through, nobody has ever been there before. This was their private secret spot, and we only found it because we were being super nosy. Mina's wondering how much cash Doriton will drop on these, especially since Rania says they haven't sold any fruit since Eldania was wiped out, making these snacks super expensive. Looking at these fruits, they're way past ripe and probably won't even sell, so our hero isn't going to waste his energy on a total lost cause. Suddenly, a genius plan popped into his head. They head back home and find their mom waiting for them, which is a total shock since they didn't expect her to be there at all. Rania asks why she's even there, so she explains that since Melon is stuck at the hospital, she's stepping in to help. She thanks Ed and Mina for tagging along with Rania and says those mushrooms they shared were a total lifesaver. The girl's mom cheered, saying they found some awesome stuff today. Ed looked at his basket and bragged about the massive haul of fruit they'd picked. They had to hurry. And, Mina had no idea what kind of jam he was even making. The boy explained that boiling the fruit stops gross bacteria from growing. They basically just need to make sure the food doesn't. She told them they could just use honey instead of sugar, and since she used to harvest and sell it in other cities every year, they should be able to find some nearby. Rania was totally shocked her mom actually knew how to make jam. Her mom explained she picked up the skill back when she lived in Eldania. Ed immediately asked her to show them the pie. The kid says thanks and tells her they're hitting up Mr. Dordan for some honey, while mom reminds them not to forget the jar for the jam. The guy agreed to sell them the honey, so they went to grab some fruit and headed back home with their baskets totally packed. The jars were already over the fire getting blasted with heat to kill any germs. This was the big cleanup phase. Then, all the kids teamed up to peel the apples together. The jam. Then she handed some over so they could finally try it out. It was super sweet, and the kids were hyped because they knew it would fly off the shelves in no time. Darden actually told them that he's been buying their jam this whole time. This thing hasn't been seen since Eldania was wiped off the map, and now everyone is dying to buy it. The guy wanted to sell even more, but they were completely out of stock. Ed had to break the news that there wouldn't be any more apples until next year. After that, it was finally. Minas felt like something was a bit off, but Rania figured it was just because honey is super cheap, while the guy just stood there with a mysterious smile. The bag was stuffed with gold coins, and Ed had absolutely no clue what to do with all that cash. Mel and Ronnie's mom told them that with all that cash they could buy a massive haul of beans. Mina's totally confused because there's no way they can eat all that food, but Rania just hands the coin to her mom and tells her to make the most of it. She said no way and told them she was super proud because they totally earned that cash with their own hard work. They can grab whatever they want and spend it on anything they've been dreaming of. If they're totally lost, she'll give them a suggestion. And they don't even have to take it yet because the whole point is just making sure they know it exists. Living in the slums is a total nightmare with zero perks. Our hero is really nervous about dropping his gold coins. Rania admits she basically wants everything she sees. Honestly, that's her. They're totally broke and have to be super careful. Ed's weighing if this world is worth his money, and Rania asks Mina what she's really after. She said she was just craving something delicious, since hitting up a restaurant is the perfect way to power up. Mina noticed that ever since Ed started leading their food runs, they were finally eating like kings. She's always down to grab some fire food with the gang, and the hero and Rania totally agreed with his butt. Someone asked if they really wanted to blow their cash on gear like this. Ed told them they had to stay safe while they were getting ready to leave. He saw it as a way to invest. The girls geared up with some leather armor, grabbing a black mage staff and a short light mage staff for their journey. Ronnie's mom told them they looked awesome, and this guy even said they looked like pro-adventurers, which totally made the kids blush. The kids decided to kick off their adventure today, but just as they were saying goodbye to everyone, someone told them to wait up. This random girl shows up, stares Ed down, and asks if he's actually that black-haired kid. She was totally shocked that he actually showed up. This random girl was totally shocked to see a black-haired guy standing right there. She told him how everyone used their fear and strength to kick out the kid they hated, and that people with black hair are just total trouble. She figured he was only saying that because he was being bullied, but the heroes were totally confused seeing how terrified he actually was. She figured he thought she'd blame him, but she wasn't about to fall for those crazy rumors. Everyone's got a different theory about where this creepy legend actually started. It all comes down to some nasty rumors about people with black hair. At least, that's the story she was told. Ed asks why she called him, and she admits she just couldn't stop thinking about his black hair. Then she asked where Doridan's shop was at. This girl comes from the second Bauer family, a bunch of high-ranking nobles who rule the northwest part of the Merlia kingdom and the capital city Treya, consisting of Countess Katie, Earl. Just a few days ago at breakfast, the Count mentioned that apple jam is actually super hard to find. He asks the butler where he got it, and he says it's from a shop in the city, which the Countess realizes is the same spot where she just bought some fire herbal tea. Marie Lou and Eleanor had no clue how sweet and special this moment really felt. Their dad watched closely as they tasted jam for the very first time. The second daughter wasn't even born until after. Katie swore that anyone would fall in love with it. The jam was seriously delicious. She slathered it on her bread and took a huge bite. The sisters were totally loving every second of it. They started roasting their dad for keeping such a delicious secret to himself. Mina says she knows the way and tells the girl to follow her. Eleanor admits she's totally new here and introduces herself. Then, the healer shares her name too. Ed noticed everyone was staring, mostly at Eli, and the whole town was already buzzing about the Count's daughter being there. Rania was totally hyped about Eleanor's outfit, telling her she looked just like a princess. Mina did a quick spin to show off her new outfit, and while Ed said it looked great even for used clothes, Eli thought she looked totally adorable and perfect. She proved she was telling the truth, and the Count's daughter backed her up on everything. The healer rushed ahead with a huge smile, and while Rania talked about how she's a total sweetheart, Ed was 100% on board with that. The squad finally made it to the shop, and Eleanor strutted right inside like she owned the place. She heard this shop sold apple jam and she straight up told them to hand it over. The shop owner calls Ed over to his spot. So why were the heroes hanging out with her? He explained she just asked for directions to his shop, but then the man asked if he even knew who she really was. The guy had no clue why she even showed up, but then she turned right around to face him. Doradon said they usually carry the jam, but it was totally sold out because everyone's obsessed with it. Eli was super bummed she couldn't eat it anymore, so Mina asked if she actually wanted the jam. If that's the case, they've got some back at the house, and Ed says there are a few cans left for them to share. They headed back home to grab some jam, but Doradon realized he recognized the Count's daughter, so his wife told him they had to report it to the castle right away. Eleanor thanked them for the help, knowing that stuff was super rare and cost a fortune, and she was totally shocked they actually had it. Man, their family is seriously loaded. But the second she stepped into the slums, she instantly regretted everything she just said. She asked what went down, and Mina told her straight up, it was all Lanirda. Eli said she knew the slums were there, but seeing them for real totally shook her. They realized they had to get tough on Lanyarda to save Treyas's money, because even though more refugees were showing up, their kindness was officially running out. These slums are basically a parasite that's eating the city alive from the inside. The Count let out a heavy sigh and admitted they were in big trouble. The local kids couldn't help but notice Eleanor, thinking she was totally gorgeous. The kids started crowding her and begging for things, but Ed and Minnie jumped in to block them as the healer shouted that this girl was her client. They realized she was the client and backed off right away. Eli finally figured out all the drama happening in the slums, but she still had no clue why Mina brought her here in the first place. She thinks they're just on a normal road leading to a massive mansion, right as Mina announces they've finally made it. The accountant's daughter took one look at the house and realized she was dead wrong, unable to believe they actually lived in such a total dump. Mina shouted to her mom that they were back, and Mel pointed out they'd never actually brought a city person home before. The woman greets her and warns that the slums are super gross compared to the city, But Eli says it's actually way cleaner than she expected. She spots a sign outside and realizes this place is actually a hospital. Can they really save people in a dump like this? The woman admits that business definitely isn't doing great. There are sick, and Eli was blown away that the medicine was totally free. And Melon told him that everyone has the right to stay healthy. They headed inside and Mina started pulling out the jam. Eli was totally shocked to find it. But why was this super expensive jam sitting in the middle of the slums? Ed just told her it's because they actually made it themselves. Eleanor asked if they really pulled it off alone, and the heroes just flashed a smile and said they totally did. He scrambled onto the roof and told them the slums were totally empty, so they headed into the forest to find everything they needed. Things were getting super dangerous during their fight with the goblin, and Ronnie was legit sure they were toast. The Count's daughter is totally shocked by what these kids are doing even though they're her age. But Ed just tells her they're only there to grab some herbs for tea. Mina says that the jam is the whole reason she and Eli finally met. Eleanor looked at her cup and said she usually hates herbal tea, but she was obsessed with how light and fresh this one tasted. She asked if she could take the jam they'd worked so hard on, and once she agreed, Mina turned her focus to the soldiers marching straight toward them. The Count's knights turned their focus right toward Lady Eleanor. Rania and Ed were totally lost, but then Eli announced she'd been found, stood up, and told them these guys were her friends, and she was staying there by choice, even if. Mina called the girl over and she felt super bad for hiding it. But she's actually Eleanor's second bower and the daughter of Count Treya. She's the one who's probably going to run this whole city, and the heroes are totally losing their minds. Eli told the squad that today was a total win and thanked them for all their help. She feels super guilty for keeping them in the dark, but after seeing the slums for herself, she realized that even in a place like Lanyard that everyone talks trash about, there are actually some really good people. She's dying to see them again because their light is going to lead the way for everyone. Our hero was totally confused by her plan to fix up the slums. Harris tells the kids this is their food for the day and says not to freak out because everyone is getting the exact same amount no matter how old they are. He asked around for someone to drop the stuff off to Zell. The kid told him he wasn't even working that day. Harris said the guy had a fever and they all had to look up. The kid headed back home, and as soon as he walked through the door, he told his grandma he'd finally scored some beans. But right then, his grandma started feeling super sick. Mel Medical Center is the only clinic in the entire slum, and even though doctors are super rare and this place belongs in a rich neighborhood, the Elven family running it just won't. Melon and Mina jump into action and use their healing skills on Harris's grandmother. The kid asks how his grandma is doing, and she tells him she just took a little tumble on her way home, wishing she wasn't so old before thanking Dr. Melon for coming over to. The lady explained the bone was healing up, but Grandma still needed a full week of rest, and she was totally shocked it would take that long. Granny thinks being a robot is totally pointless if she can't even grab a snack, but Harris says he's got it covered while Ed just waits outside. He took one look at their house and all their gear, realizing the whole place was a total wreck. He kept thinking about Ellie calling La Mierda the absolute bottom of the city, and even though she was desperate to change it, he just didn't see how anyone could actually wipe out that much poverty. The moment they stepped outside, Mina dropped the bomb and said they were totally done. Harris, get moving and tail them out of there. The kid asked what the hero was even doing there, wondering if he seriously just showed up to flex his new gear. Ed really wanted to help him out, but the guy just snapped and told him to shut up. He's not taking a single handout from this guy. He told the guy that if he's got cash to burn, he should go buy something actually useful. The lady asks Rania where the pure bread is, so Rania explains she's covering for Mina since she couldn't make it herself. The girl mentions that nobody here is in any rush. The woman explains that this has actually been going on for a while now. They've got word that a gang of robbers has already... They're sent to be super smart and brutal while raiding southern cities, which is why adventurers have to pull triple shifts just to stay safe. The elf heard they're actually snatching kids right out of the city to use as bait. She promised those high and mighty elves wouldn't listen, but he warned her to stay sharp since kids like her always fall for a good story. Rania filled Ed and Mina in and told Mina to watch her back, but Mina just promised she'd be totally fine. The heroes jumped all over her and told her to stop playing around because they definitely weren't feeling her answer. Rania could tell Mina was being way too overconfident, and now the heroes got their eyes locked on those robbers. He couldn't stop thinking about what Harris said about him finally having his own cash. Mina checked out Harris's house and told everyone he was nowhere to be found. Ronnie has no clue why her friend even needs Harris around. He laid out his theories, and the girls were totally shocked that Harris was part of a gang, but Ed refused to confirm anything just yet. Rania tried to bring up the money, but Mina cut her off and said they had to move fast to stop that guy. They've got to move fast and find Harris right now. The crew splits up to cover more ground. So Ed heads into the city, Mina hits the slums, and Rania checks the door-down store. They spent the entire day racing through the city, searching every single corner. He couldn't find him anywhere, but the gatekeeper did mention seeing him walk right into town. He asks about the kids he was with, and Rania says she saw them hiding but couldn't follow them, which is super sketchy. But then Mina suddenly hears a noise. She caught someone mentioning Harris and immediately bolted toward the sound. She knew that voice instantly. It was Air's kid, and they were already bolting into the alley. The kids plan to hit a mansion tonight, so our heroes are already racing to stop the heist. Ed calls Harris, who tells his friends to bail while he stays behind to handle. The kid just straight up asked him what he wanted. Our guy is desperate for cash, but if he's planning something shady, he better quit. Even though Harris claims it's all just one big misunderstanding. Ed screamed at him to stop being an idiot, but Mina was listening the whole time and heard them planning the entire robbery. Ed stepped in to stop him, shouting that he's the opponent now, then told Rania to run while he went to grab the boy. Harris snatches the girl, socks Ed right in the stomach, and shouts that he's never letting her go before hurling her at our hero to stop him in his tracks. Harris has no clue why the hero is even messing with him, since he's just a black-haired kid who brings bad luck everywhere he goes. And he snatched up his sword. The kid thinks it's hilarious that this hero is actually trying to throw down. He tells him to get lost because there's no way he's backing out now. Ed tossed his sword aside and charged straight into the fight. He smacked Harris right across the face and told him to shut up, because he's definitely not a jinx. The guys just started brawling, and Rania and Minu had no clue how to pull them apart. Out of nowhere, Harris's friends show up saying they were called, just as a huge crowd starts marching right toward the kids. The guy handed Harris and his crew a massive reward. Since their tip helped catch the criminal, they were the heroes of the day. He literally gave them a huge bag filled with cash. The woman says the boys spotted a creep luring kids into the slums, so they acted like they were falling for it just to call the soldiers and bust him. She asked what the heroes were going to do next, and Mina was just super relieved they didn't totally blow it. Ed stood up and said sorry, so Harris finally told him why he kicked him out, asking if he seriously thought the kid was going to rob someone. Ed said he thought so too, and Harris was totally losing his cool. The soldier played it cool, telling them he'd totally feel the same way if he heard a crazy story like that. There was no point in fighting about it anymore. It'd be way smarter. Harris split up the cash and told the crew this was their cut for the day, making sure everyone got an equal slice. He told everyone to meet up first thing tomorrow morning to get started on weeding those garden beds. Rania was totally shocked that the hero was teaching Harris how to make tea and other random stuff, and she's starting to wonder if this guy is actually legit. He tells them it's way better to start a real farm instead of just grabbing food once, but it's going to be a total struggle without enough workers. All the kids totally look up to him since he looks way more like a leader than Ed, and when Harris caught our hero staring, he spun around and asked what his deal was. He told him straight up he wasn't going to say thanks, and the hero just shrugged and said they were even. He can't get Eleanor's words about cheating on Lanyard out of his head. He's wondering just how bad things are going to get. Mina notices Harris is calling the hero. Mina gives Ed her blessing and tells him to go out there and give it everything he's got. Our guy sprints full speed to take a swing at a rabbit with a horn. He misses because the rabbit is way too fast, so he keeps swinging his sword like crazy to catch it. Out of nowhere, someone blasts the beast with a massive wave of fire. Rania popped up and started complaining that he was moving way too slow, warning him the sun would set before he finished anything. So they headed straight to the Eastern Mountain for their next guild mission. Right by the city of Treya, you'll find the Elder River Road, Watch Mountain, and the terrifying Hell Mountains. Watch Mountain is just a small peak to the northeast of the city. At Fa, the squad is totally exhausted from climbing all the way up to the Knight's Mountain Tower, only to be met by two guys who are surprised their backup is just a group of kids, though they still. Beast walked up and asked what he was doing, so he explained he was just showing them where the last catch happened, which is wild since he's actually a knight. After their massive trip, the guy offered the kids some food, and they were hyped to dig in. Everyone sat down to enjoy some crispy fried rabbit. Ed thanked them for teaching him how to skin the animal. Now he could finally do it all by himself. But Mina looked totally miserable. Rania asked, she hates it because it's rock hard and tastes like nothing, and her friends realize she's just talking about the dry meat they eat at home. Ed offered her a taste of the fresh meat, but she started teasing him so much that he finally snapped and stuffed a piece right into her mouth. She totally loved it because the meat was super soft, juicy, and tasted amazing. She started stuffing her face like crazy, while Rainier asked Mr. Bist about that building right next to the hut. The squad from that night finally agreed it was time to come clean and explain the whole truth. There's a road past these mountains that leads straight to Eldania, the city where Rania's parents are actually from. The kids spotted smoke rising from the mountains, and Ed realized right away it was a signal fire. They spot another hut on the road that looks just like theirs. It's also sending out smoke signals to communicate. White smoke is the all-clear sign, meaning there are 0 monsters. Mina thought it was awesome, but Ed and Ronnie were already checking out something else. Suddenly, another mountain started blowing out smoke in a totally different color. A few days later at the walls of Treya, the citizens throw the gates open as the caravan finally makes its way back into Eldania. Everyone starts finding their families, giving out big hugs and talking about how much they've missed each other. Rania bolted forward to meet up with her dad too. She sprinted into their arms for a huge hug, and her dad told her she looked totally grown up and amazing. The color of that smoke meant the caravan was finally back, and Nina could tell Rania was super hyped about it. When night hits, the whole town is chilling and drinking, super thankful for all the work done to fix Eldania, while Mina serves them a rabbit she cooked herself and tells everyone to eat. Rania treated her whole family and told them she helped score some spices, making her dad joke that his daughter is finally ready to get married. He turned to Ed and straight up asked him to marry Rania, but she immediately screamed at her dad to stop. Mina's face turned bright red as she snatched the hero's shirt, but the guy was totally clueless about why she was doing it. 2 kids walked up to Ronnie's dad and asked him what this Eldania place was all about. Rania wanted answers too, asking if it was really true that nobody wanted to live in this city. And with Mina backing up the kids, they all swarmed the table until the man finally... This city was a total paradise built right on a giant lake and surrounded by mountains. But then a massive wave of monsters stormed in and ruined everything. The whole city was a total ghost town, and this nasty demon smoke was rotting the trees and the dirt to mush. The people who escaped built a new home called Lonerda, but this guy refused to let go of his city. The squad already spotted the poisoned ground and used their purification magic to save the creatures stuck in that nasty mist. It started as a brutal camp where just staying alive was a struggle, but slowly, the whole place began to grow. The East Coast is basically back to normal now, but that one unlivable city is still totally stuck in the past. Everyone is super hyped because they finally get to head back to Eldania and go home. The guy tells them to chill out because they're only looking at a tiny piece of the puzzle. The girl says if they keep rebuilding, the town will finally be back, and the old lady is hyped to show her grandkids her home, but Harris jokes she's going to be bored out of her mind living that long. Mina saw everyone was glowing with seals, and while Guido wiped his eyes, he told them he was just so hyped for them. She could see his eyes getting all watery. But Ed realizes he's never seen the people of Lonerda looking this hyped before. This all sounds hype, but Doraiden isn't exactly celebrating yet because even if they call it a rebuild, it's going to take a massive pile of cash just to... Mina handed over a coin and said they were good, but Ed told her that tiny bit of change wasn't nearly enough. Rania's dad says Linear is totally broke and can't afford to keep this massive rebuilding project going anymore. Eldania is only halfway rebuilt, and since La Nierda is about to snap, they're all going to crash and burn together. Guido asks if anyone can help them out, but Doradon tells him they're totally on their own right now. The guy told Guido to go find the original source for help, but then he looked away and admitted he was totally useless since he had no power left. The seller thinks they're totally out of luck, but then someone suddenly yells for everyone to stop freaking out. It was Ed, and he was basically asking why they were all so depressed if they were supposed to be adults. He screams that everyone is counting on them and that they're the absolute last hope. He tells them to turn their hope into real power, so Rania says they'll just work hard for the cash, and Mina jumps in to help by making tea and jam. Rania's dad was totally shocked that she actually whipped up some jam. The heroes led the adults right to their secret apple-picking spot, and the guy was totally shocked to see them growing wild there, but Mina explained she actually stumbled onto the place while Rania says Eldania used to be this massive city famous for its fruit, and her own dad even ran a farm there. If he saw this, he'd totally think the farming business was making a comeback, and maybe these orchards are exactly what Lonerda needs to save its economy. But the guy brushed those thoughts aside because they didn't have any land, and since you need the perfect spot to grow fruit trees, this one place just wasn't going to work. Suddenly, our hero gets a crazy idea, and while everyone follows his lead, they have absolutely no clue what he's up to. He says they're totally trapped since the Count owns all this land, so their only move is to go deal with the man himself. Eleanor shouted that they were totally going to build a school. Mina followed her lead and said the exact same thing. Then she turned to her friends and asked them what school even was. Rania told her to stop acting like she knew what was up, and Guido had to step in and apologize for his daughter. Every weekday morning in Trolley, the priest gathers the local kids at the Church of La Folly to teach them reading, math, and how to follow the rules. Eli said she was just there to see the Lord and apologized for keeping the heroes waiting around. She totally chewed them out for breaking into the castle because anyone else would have been treated like a straight-up criminal. They're totally down to hand over the land for the gardens. It's a deal, but they've got some specific rules to follow. Every single crop has to be sold in treyas. Every year they've got to whip up a batch of jam and sell it right to her. Mina noticed that Eli was actually super into the stuff. The hero says that's the big bet. And that big plan is to build a brand new school right in land. He told them that just farming wasn't going to be enough to actually give them a better life. Eleanor was totally on board with her dad's idea that education makes the city better. And history proves he's 100% right. If she tries using the government's cash to build a school in the slums, the citizens are going to freak out and ask why they should pay for a bunch of strangers. Starting a garden is a huge chance for them, and if they pull it off, the slums might finally stop being seen as just a poor neighborhood. But first, we gotta see if they see. The school is finally happening, but there's a catch, and now this guy is weighing his options. Ed wants to build a school too because most kids in the slums can't read or write, and even the ones who can are really struggling. Take Mina, for example. The second she heard her name, she bragged about being able to count, but then she just said 1, 2, 3, many. The hero points out they need to defend against those crazy robber riots, but Jordan stops him and says he's actually totally down to build the school. He's stressing over his crew, wondering who he can actually trust to be a teacher. Guido threw his hand up and told everyone he'd be the one to do. Mina straight up told him he was a total failure as a dad. That's when it hit him. His own daughter didn't trust him at all. He actually used to dream of, he's officially becoming a teacher, so they've got to get some classrooms and outdoor spots ready for the lessons. It's a total pain trying to get the Lord to actually notice them. The top 3 in the running are Ed, Mina, and Ronnie. The guy was totally shocked to see that only 3 people actually showed up for class. Even the Lord wouldn't admit they were a real school yet, so they had to find more people, and the kids immediately scrambled to make it happen. They started screaming that school was in session and these kids were about to get schooled. Some of them actually knew about school, others just hated studying, and the rest were totally obsessed with making money. Mina makes it clear they can't drag any other kids into this mess, leaving Rania totally stuck on what to do next. Out of nowhere, someone whipped around to face the heroes. It was Harris calling from Mellon Hospital, and he looked so rough it was hard to watch as he yelled at the kids, asking if they were really happy with the tiny bit of money they were making. He tells them that hitting the books is actually a smart move. If you've got the brains, you can make some serious cash. That's when they get the big idea to start picking. They've got to study hard or a genius like Ed will take everything they own, and as Harris heads to school, he asks what the kids are even going to do. They thought about it for a second, then one guy said, if Harris is going, he's in, and the other dude totally agreed. Ed thanked his friend for the help, but the guy made it clear he wasn't doing it for him. He was doing it for Leonardus. Guido says what's up to the crew, and they dive right into the alphabet so they can finally read the signs in the shop. He told the kids to read the letters he wrote on the board. They did such a great job that the man actually started to cry. Mina saw this and figured her dad hated working there, but out of nowhere, he spots a kid clutching his stomach and asks him what the heck happened. He told them he was starving, and right on cue, almost every other kid's stomach started growling too. This dude was totally stuck and had no clue what to do next. Out of nowhere, Doran and his wife show up holding something mysterious, and the kids immediately start asking what it is. He says it's just a school lunch, and when Ed asks why he's doing all this, the guy admits he just wants to look out for Ed and his family. They're helping them out for now, but these guys might come back as paying customers later, and at least they get free food while they learn. This kid was sitting by the house with his stomach growling like crazy. So Rania walked right up, held out her hand, and told him that if he just came to school with Leonard finally made his move. The kids are obsessed with everything from math and magic to gym and farming, and now the school is absolutely blowing up with new students. The bell rings and Guido shouts that class is officially in session. Eli spots a bell on the roof and says the place is finally looking like a real school. But Ed explains the kids actually built it themselves to help keep everyone on track. Eleanor was totally down for the plan, but Al looked like he'd already heard some news. And if he hadn't, he was definitely going to go see it for himself. They were all wishing for a legit school trip, and just like that, a massive crowd of kids showed up at the scene. They finally made it to Lenierta's farm, and it's all because they worked so hard to get there. Guido reveals that their families and neighbors are all working right here and tells them to go say hi. Rania says hey to her dad, and he welcomes the whole crew back. Ed's totally blown away by how fast all these trees grew. The dad explains that some former Elden farm, because of them, sales are already blowing up, and they're letting the kids be the first to try out all their hard work. They were led to some surviving seedlings from Eldania, and the fruit they grow is supposed to taste amazing. The kids took a bite, and their minds were blown by how sweet and delicious it was. Ed snacked on an apple while heading home, talking about how school and the farm were both going super smooth. Out of nowhere, Mel rushes over to him and tells him that something super weird just happened. A huge pile of coins was sitting right there on the table, finally covering all those unpaid medical bills. Since the farm was finally making bank, everyone brought her a cut of the profits. She's already plotting how to get them back, and Mina honestly has no clue why her mom is making such a huge deal out of it. Money is basically just a big thank you, and getting some would totally make her day since their mom's hard work was the reason they were all so happy. Her parents patted her head and told her all that cash was a huge thank you from everyone in Lanyard. Guido told them to be smart with the cash and use it to help out the whole squad. Ed finally speaks up about his big plan for every patient at the hospital, and it's an idea that's going to make everyone super happy.